Hey guys, EnterTheStars. We have a premiere following this show. Apparently, Ohio is giving out $5 million in a lottery for people to have a chance at winning that if they take the CV19 VC. And also for school children, they're giving them the opportunity to possibly get free college, room and board at Ohio State University, I think. Anyway, we're going to cover that in a premiere directly following this show. But I wanted to welcome everybody. Today's show is going to be all about Helix, the series that keeps on giving. And before we get into that, I want to clarify a couple things on yesterday's show. I believe that the Word and Enoch tells us that the sun and the moon are the same size. I don't believe in the canon of 400. I'm simply laying that out there so you could see that this is a copycat version, a pseudoscience version of God's creation. It says all throughout the Bible that the enemy wants to be like the Most High. So, of course, he's going to make you believe that the sun and the moon are different sizes and millions of miles apart. Also, we were talking a little bit about the age of Jesus' crucifixion. And many of you saw on the screen that there was an entry for 37 years old. I actually believe that Jesus was 40 when he was crucified. Now, there are different theories on that, and none of them conflict with the Word of God. And for those of you that have been on this channel for some time, you've seen some of the studies that we've done on a 40-year-old Jesus. Now, several people got triggered and started attacking and threatening, and I'm unsubscribing, and you're a liar, and you're a deceiver. So I blocked them. We're all adults here, so we should be able to have conversations about these things, differences in doctrine, without being at each other's throat, especially if it does not conflict with the Word. I don't know when we as Christians decided we weren't going to have mutual respect for people and have discussions about what's being presented, especially with fellow believers. Instead of leading with accusations and threats. This is the kind of stuff that gives us a bad name. Judgmental, threatening. So like I said, there's plenty of evidence out there that does not conflict with the Word that Jesus might have been 40 years old when he was crucified. Now, the tradition of men has settled on the age of 33. And, we wonder why we get accused of Freemasons writing the Bible. Well, when people are so dead set on him being 33 when he was crucified, that's just another dagger. Now, I was accused of changing the Word or reading things into the Word that were not there, and that's simply not the case. Now, I put on yesterday's show, I replied to one comment, and I put a lot of evidence that suggests that Jesus may have been 40. Biblical scholars have examined the possible ages that he could have been that fit within the text, and almost all agree that the age of Jesus when he was crucified was set by counting Passovers that were mentioned in the text. That's how they came about his age. He began his ministry at about 30 years old. And so how could he have, did he have a 3-year ministry? Nobody can think of the possibility of his ministry being longer, or the possibility that some of the Passovers were not mentioned in the text, or some of the books were left out. So the vile backlash that we got from some people for even bringing up an alternative viewpoint reveals the true source of the backlash, in my opinion. How people react and respond to a message tells you everything you need to know. It's not like I was on here telling people not to believe in Jesus or something. You would have thought that that's what I was saying by how some people responded. So welcome everybody. Let's get back into Helix. We're going to cover 2 more montages today. And I have one more in the workings that I'll upload on the weekend, and then we'll cover in full next week. Now, I'm glad I stuck with season 2. It kind of started out slow, but then things got really crazy and specific. They were talking about a fungal disease. What are we experiencing right now in India? A fungal disease. Now we're going to get into that, but some other topics they cover are world depopulation and some very, very specific scenarios that are playing out right now. Now here's the problem with the series. It aired in 2015. Let's take a look at this.
Look, they're doing some pretty heavy-duty botanical work here. Hybrid breeding, seed manipulation. They're combining traits of different plants to create entirely new variants.
Look at this.
Skin's raised. It's a puncture wound, but it's too small to be a needle.
Could be a bite or sting.
You mean like GMOs? They don't have the
They
technology.
don't need it. Grafting's been around for centuries. Gregor Mendel was crossbreeding pea plants in the 1850s.
Now, this first montage contains clips from Helix Season 2, but also the back part of this montage, you're going to see an episode of The Outer Limits from 1995. The episode is called Blood Brothers, and it eerily contains many of the same aspects of the spamdemic as well. So let me give you the backdrop of, we're back to Helix now. Let me give you the backdrop of this Season 2. It's a lot different than Season 1. Season 1 took place on an Arctic base. Season 2 takes place on a remote island. And one of the fallen immortals starts a cult on the island. And what he does is he starts inbreeding with his daughters over the course of 500 years. And after each one dies, he puts them on a wall. Their picture. Now, he's also involved in crossbreeding a sexless apple. He does this by cutting the roots, so there's no seeds in the apple. And as the people eat the apples, they're rendered infertile. Now, root cutting is mentioned in the Book of Enoch as something taught by the fallen angels. And what this amounts to is the corruption of God's creation. So let's listen to this part again so you can get the context of what's going on here. They're talking about crossbreeding and root cutting.
Look, they're doing some pretty heavy-duty botanical work here. Hybrid breeding, seed manipulation. They're combining traits of different plants to create entirely new variants.
Combining traits of different plants to create new variants. Now, the angels, the fallen angels, were doing this with plants, but they also want to do this with humanity.
This.
So this is fallen angel hybrid technology, recreating life in the devil's image using God's image.
Skin's raised. It's a puncture wound, but it's too small to be a needle.
Could be a bite or sting.
So they realize that it's an insect vector, a sting, that's causing the fungal part of this. Because there's two aspects to this. There's the infertility caused by eating the apples, and then there's this fungus that develops from the bees that pollinate the apples, and when they sting people, they cause them to develop this orange fungus that grows out of their mouths and suffocates them. Is all this starting to sound familiar? Remember the GMO mosquitoes that were just launched out of Florida?
You mean like GMOs? They don't have the
They
technology.
don't need it. Grafting's been around for centuries. Gregor Mendel was crossbreeding pea plants in the 1850s.
Now you're going to hear them next talk about this weird fungus. It sounds a lot like what's happening in India right now. Except the fungus in India is black, not orange.
Can fit our profile, but we might just be looking at an insect-borne vector.
Blood serum data on the victims show elevated alkaloid levels, including derivatives of lysergic acid and agroclavine.
Myco for fungus, plus psychotic.
Catchy. And that is consistent with fungal poisoning.
Stomach contents in all three of our island victims tested negative for any fungal metabolites. For any fungal metabolites. For any fungal metabolites.
Which only means that the source breaks down quickly enough to be undetectable.
I firmly believe.
Now, the fungus in the series is called mycol or something like that, which is the same exact name that they're giving this black fungus in India. It's unbelievable. It's like right on the money. Now let's get into this Outer Limits episode on the back half of this montage. It's from 1995. So in this episode of The Outer Limits, they're trying to develop an urban control agent that's transmitted through messenger RNA. Listen.
I firmly believe in the value of creating a humane urban enforcement weapon. For the past 2 years, Metadyne Pharmaceuticals has been developing a clandestine urban control agent for military and civilian law enforcement agencies. And I still believe the Dayton C viral agent, which carries altered messenger RNA into targeted host cells, is the way to go.
Now, we've been talking about this 5G Whiz component to people control, as have many other channels. But I don't think anyone saw the programming this far back. What were we at? Like 1G, maybe, back in 1995? This was right when the internet was starting. I don't even think we had like significant networks. I think it was like 1G or 2G back then. But listen to the microwave programming. Now in this scene, the evil brother that's up here in the glass, behind the glass, he tries to kill his brother by microwave decontamination. And of course, 5G Whiz are microwaves, right?
Decontamination procedure will commence in 30 seconds. Decontamination security codes are locked out. Microwave decontamination procedure will are locked out.
Microwave decontamination. Now, the crazy thing is that anytime you see microwaves back then, really what they were talking about is the coming 5G Wish technology. They knew they would eventually get there with these microwaves. And the microwave that you microwave your food with is just a metaphor for that, for the future of microwave technology. Now, why was he trying to kill his brother? Well, his brother, this guy in the suit here, developed what he thought was an immortality serum. And the rich brother, who was the businessman, wanted to take it and sell it. He wanted to take it himself, live forever, and he also wanted to sell it to the highest bidder instead of helping the world. So if you listen closely here, he's talking about V-scene technology, inactivated cells that cause an immune response.
Microwave decontamination procedure will commence in seconds.
The virus is harmless. It's been genetically deactivated.
The virus is harmless. It's been genetically deactivated. Now, this next part you're going to hear is interesting because we've been talking all about Huntington's, right? It's the zombie disease, and it's caused when you lower what is called the step protein in the brain, when you take the step. And here it is right here, the step protein. This is Nicole Kidman in the Invasion film, and they kept telling people to take the step. Now, what happens when you take the step protein? Well, it causes loss of feeling, loss of emotion, memory loss, aberrant behavior, muscle spasms, schizophrenia. It's a nerve disease. Now, in the film, The Invasion, after the slogan, this whole campaign to get people to get vaccinated, it says all over the film, this take the step. People are standing in line to get the vaca, and this very same slogan, take the step, was used by Presidents Bush and Obama and Clinton to get people vaccinated. There was an ad campaign, and they kept saying, take the step, take the step. So there's some kind of component to this. And I don't know how all this is going to play out, but something tells me this will be part of the zombie apocalypse. So again, taking the step is taking the step protein, which turns you into a zombie. And that's exactly what happened in this film. Once they got the vaccines, it took their step and their bodies were taken over by aliens. Unreal.
stop the decontamination. My mother's dead. She had Huntington's chorea. My father spent half his life looking for the cure.
They suffer from tremors and...
Yeah, loss of coordination, sometimes in bad cases, schizophrenia. And then, ultimately...
Well, there's a test for it.
Yeah.
This is strain H, one of Dayton C's deadlier cousins. It kills within 10 to 20 seconds by clotting blood in the lungs and...
Now, here they mention blood clots in the lungs and brain, which is what's happening to some people after they took the vaccine. Now, how many people this has happened to is up for debate. Lots more people are reporting it, but the companies won't really admit there's a causal link yet. And they're not admitting what is a case and what isn't. And some of the stuff that's reported to the website is not being reported to the authorities. There's a disconnect. There's hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of people reporting these kinds of things, but the media will only admit to about 28 people so far. And this is across the board, regardless of the vaccine technology. Doesn't matter which brand you get. They're all reporting this. Now, we told you this was going to happen. We talked about it way back when in a video. Here it is right here, August 10th, 2020. Is the new mRNA VC technology safe? And in that video, we showed you about the genome, and these were their concerns. That this could integrate into the genome and could potentially be unsafe. Here's the study we pulled up on that. Comparison of plasmid DNA and mRNA as VC techs. This was back in 2019. They did this report. And they talked about concerns over this infecting the genome. So you pull it up here. These are the DNA VCs. Let's see if there's anything for the RNA, mRNA. This is crazy. This is just for the DNA VCs. Different technology, but there were concerns nonetheless. Let's continue on with this.
brain.
What would happen if...
This is strain H, one of Dayton C's deadlier cousins. It kills within 10 to 20 seconds by clotting blood in the lungs and brain.
What would happen if it mutated into the rodent population, or even the insect world? I mean,
what would happen if it mutated into the insect world? See? They had concerns about this. He's going to talk about genetically altered retrovirus.
Picture a world death rate cut by 1,000%. You get, say, a billion mouths to feed within the next 2 years. That's massive starvation. Look, I don't want to take chances with a genetically altered retrovirus, and I don't believe you do. It's just amazing.
So, of course, they're talking about altering forever the genome by introducing genetically modified technology. And this was a concern back when they were testing DNA VCs on animals. And they were also testing mRNA technology on animals as well, as recently as 2019. So, let's continue on with this, because one of the lab workers injects himself with the monkey blood that they were testing the immortality serum on. And this all points back to the polio days, when simian monkey flu had contaminated the polio vaccines in the 1960s. Many scientists to this day believe that this caused a cancer outbreak in lots of people.
Amazing to take chances with a genetically altered retrovirus, and I don't believe you do.
It just amazes me that we spend millions to develop these deadly viruses you can't even work on outside of a suit, and the minute we find something that's actually going to help people...
I overlooked one. The monkey.
That's right. It was in the blood. He drew blood.
Now, this next scene is crazy. So one of the brothers traps the lab tech in the decontamination microwave room, right? And lo and behold, he types in the code for microwave, which is 5775, which is a 5 and a 7, which is 5 and a G, 5G whiz. Then he tells him, "You're fired," which is Trump's signature line, of course. The very president that would sign 5G whiz and beyond while we were on lockdown. Remember? You can't make this up, you guys. It's almost like these people have some kind of a time machine.
Peter, unlock the door. Security code McKendrick 5775.
That code has
Damn it. 5775.
state authorized security code.
McKendrick, damn it. 5775. I meant to tell you, Carl. You're fired.
That code.
I meant to tell you, Carl. You're fired.
That code has been terminated.
You're fired.
So this guy gets microwaved, he explodes, and he says, "You're fired." I mean, wow.
That code has been terminated.
So you can suppress a retrovirus?
Suppress it? No. Restrict it? Absolutely.
After he sprayed me, I felt a tingling sensation creep down my spine.
Corticosteroids block the Dayton Sea and the bronchiole. We were even looking at that.
Corticosteroids block the Dayton Sea and the bronchiole.
In a few seconds, I couldn't walk. I collapsed. I could barely breathe. I could barely reach for my inhaler.
Now, there you have the "I can't breathe" CV19 meme, of course, suffocation, which is man's carnal fear. And it occurred to me this morning, after reviewing all of what we're going through right now, that we are basically living through a giant waterboarding ritual. We're all being waterboarded, suffocated, or the fear of suffocation. And this is going to make us comply, make us confess in the fake doctor instead of the true doctor. That's what's happening here on a spiritual level, you guys. Now let's get back into season 2 of Helix. So as I mentioned earlier, the fallen ones, the immortals, they run this cult on an island. And this guy inbreeds with his own daughters. And when they die, he puts them on a wall. Count the pictures on the wall. Guys, this was 2015 this came out. There are 19 pictures on the wall.
We built this place up from nothing. Persevered through unimaginable hardships. That proud mantle is being passed to you. Are you ready to receive it, Amy?
Now, he eventually becomes the 20th picture, which I believe is code for 2020, when all this would happen. And he's locked down inside this like tomb, because he's an immortal, and he's like locked down there. He can't get out. But she puts his picture up as the 20th picture. But think about this. CV19, 19 pictures. This is all about a world spamdemic. Now, this next part's crazy because these immortals have silver eyes, but they wear contacts to conceal their identity. And in this next scene, his daughter, which is really old now, injects him with food dye, blue food dye in the eye. Now, this, of course, is the practice of the evil scientist Mengele that he performed on children in Brazil. And it was made famous in the film Boys from Brazil. So this scene that you're going to see next is a throwback to that moment. And, of course, what was Mengele working on? He was studying twins.
I'd say she's just like you.
There's no one like me.
You lied to us.
No, Agnes. Of course I didn't.
You told us you were the only one.
But I saw her eyes, Silver.
like yours.
We at the Ilaria Corporation held out hope that nature would take care of itself.
Now, here's where things go off the rails, because in this scene, they admit to world depopulation. This guy sounds just like Gil Bates. And he shows a CV19 death map 5 years before it would ever come out.
We must take a more active role in the stewardship of the human race. But overpopulation, diminishing resources, and drastic climate change have forced our hand. With 17 coordinated strikes.
17 strikes. That's the letter that shall not be named. You know, the group that put the nation to sleep, put all the people on the right to sleep while Trump developed the poison at warp speed. Remember that group?
We can reduce world population by 75% within 3 months.
And there it is, the Ilaria Corporation and their plan for world domination and thinning the herd. Now, we saw this same map in another series that we're decoding. It's completely unrelated to this one, called The Leftovers. Remember? People are sitting up on the stage. There were 5 and 7 people on the stage, and there was a globe with red dots all over it. That's the same thing. In that instance, the red dots marked the people who were taken away, who were raptured. You're going to hear him mention essential workers next.
And we'd still have the ability to administer the cure created by Dr. Walker to any mortals deemed essential. To any mortals deemed essential. This isn't genocide. It's a cleansing moment of clarity.
Now, the cure, just like in real life, are stored at sub-zero temperatures. Watch and listen.
The cure.
A single dose. Keep it safe. It's about to become the most valuable substance on Earth. Best served chilled.
Best served chilled. Now, outside of the island, the elite immortals that you all saw sitting in that room were debating on how they were going to wipe out the world, or if they were going to wipe out the world, all of humanity, or how they would control us or thin the herd. And some of the immortals wanted to do it more humanely. Others wanted to take more drastic measures. This immortal you're looking at here wanted to do it more humanely by simply rendering everyone sterile. So she meets up with this little girl who tells her to go to the island where the guy who's running the cult has developed a method of sterilization that is more humane to control the human population. You guys, this stuff is sick. This is exactly what's happening right now. So this little girl gives her the logo that the cult uses, which is a tree. It's a dark tree with limbs and roots coming up in and around. Now, we've decoded this dark tree as the eyes of Molech, which is the dark sky, the star spin. When you look at time-lapse photography and panoramic photography, the sky appears to turn into the eyes of Molech. It looks like a tree with limbs and roots spinning around back on top of one another. And what this is, what we've determined with a lot of research, is this is the magnetic field trap. It's the tree of evil. Now, the Bible talks about this. It says that we see things through a scanner darkly, or a dark glass. And I think that that's the dark sky that's basically covering the true glory of heaven.
Frightened people blaming their doctors for their disease, hurting, even killing them. Get to the lab. Protect Sarah. I've seen this before. Frightened people blaming their doctors for their disease, hurting, even killing them.
So, of course, this is the hurt your doctor meme. As people begin to wake up to the deception and the pain that it's caused them, instead of taking personal responsibility for allowing their ego to get in the way, instead of seeing the red flags and the warnings, they're going to turn on their doctors. You're going to see, mark my words, it's going to be in the headlines any day now.
What's the project?
A world where only one field yields a crop, while the rest lie barren. Grafted it into apples. One dose, no side effects. Simple, elegant, guaranteed results.
Infertility?
That's right.
With that technology, Alaria can control the spread of the mortal population.
Without resorting to genocide. Yes, it would solve their human problem. And the best part? It only affects mortal man.
So no one else can father children except for him.
And any other immortal man.
Thinning?
So the cult leader goes off the rails. Remember, he's an immortal. As his flock begins to rebel, there is no cure for the mysterious fungus. So he decides to wipe the slate clean and thin the herd. He gives him a potion that he calls a vicine, and he pretends to take it himself. Is all this starting to sound familiar? The fake needles?
Monkshood and opium poppy, 4-to-1 ratio. Muscles are paralyzed, breathing stops. Thinning is a necessary part to what we do. And death comes as a quick release.
You're going to kill them.
They're at the end of their path. I have no choice.
When she was a young girl, a decision was made to thin the fellowship, to wipe the slate clean and start over.
The good doctors from the CDC have developed a serum to combat the illness which has been plaguing our fellowship. They're administering it right now to the sick outside.
I want you to take your men. I need you outside on the perimeter.
When do we get the cure?
And they have even provided us with an oral vaccine so that we might not become affected either. Is it safe?
I thought you might ask me that.
So they make it look like it's in demand. There's a shortage. If you don't get yours now, you might not get it ever. Just like in real life, it's happening now, and everybody wants it. He tells his guards to go outside, and they're like, well, when are we going to get our dose? It's all happening right now. He takes the fake one, which of course doesn't make him sick, and then they all take it, and they die.
See? Totally painless. Men, aid our women for helping yourself. Parents, administer to your children. The elderly persons, offer them assistance. More than enough to go around.
More than enough to go around. Now, every single one of these V-Scene films that we've covered has this Superman meme in it. The serpent in the chest. Now remember we decoded the invasion where the little boy was Superman for Halloween? Now why do they choose Superman? Well, the serpent in the chest is how they become immortal. They keep possessing host bodies. The demons, they keep possessing these host bodies over time. All this is in the Bible. This is why, Jesus went around casting demons out of people, because they were possessing host bodies. But he didn't kill the demons forever. He just killed them and cast them out from places. One of the demons challenged him, and he said, it is not the appointed time. So he sent him into 2,000 pigs. They ran over a cliff into water. That was 2,000 years ago. 2,000 pigs 2,000 years ago. Now what happens when you take their pharmakia? Well, you become a better host for demon possession. That's what this is all about. Watch the Superman part here.
I met this little boy named Arthur, and he was a very brave boy. He used to always have a blanket that he would tie around his shoulders like a cape.
So the boy drops his V-scene cup. He looks around. He's got a Superman cape on. And now what I don't show here is the cult leader gives him another cup and the boy dies anyway, but he almost got away.
So I asked him one day, I said, Arthur, why do you tie a blanket around your shoulders? And he said, because I'm Superman, and Superman can fly.
Now remember, her birthday is the same as Trump's, June 14th. She's 33 years old right now.
And he'll never get sick because he can fly away from any disease.
Now, I have one more montage at least upload over the weekend on this series. I'm in season 2. I got about 5 episodes left. So depending on how much I find, it'll be at least one more montage, and then we'll cover it in full on a full show, just like we did today. We'll cover it next week. This is chilling stuff, you guys, I know, but this is the kind of stuff that will wake people up. When they see the pre-programming, they have no choice but to understand that they've been had. I don't know how people can watch these kind of decodes and still have confidence in what the powers that be tell us. Now, directly following this show, I have a premiere scheduled. We're going to go over some CV19 headlines, and I put the link here up here in the pinned chat, right up here. You can see it. You just hit the link, and it'll take you right to the next show, which is going to start in about an hour. I may move it up if enough of you get over there early enough. I'll move it up half an hour if you want, but I'm going over there right now after we get out of this show. Let me make this bigger here. Let's see what you guys are up to. Thanks everybody for coming to the Decode today. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about how they were giving loans out to farmers based on what color you are. I mean, how they expect people to get past this race thing if they're doing stuff like that? You can't do that based on someone's color. Okay, let me give you an example. Would I qualify for something like that? I'm part black. What do they have some formula? You have to be at least 2%. This is why I tell you guys, people are like, you're not black. Guess what? If I went to go qualify, I probably would qualify for one of those loans because I have some black blood. So if I have some black blood and they're considering me black, do you see the problem we have here? You can't determine someone's color based on their color. So why even try? We're all just Americans. It's the government pushing this stuff. This division and separation, labeling people certain things. We need to knock it off. So, some white farmers are upset, and rightfully so, because only black farmers are getting this relief. Now, I don't want any of their money, because look what it's done to our economy. Inflation through the roof. Look how much our food costs now. Gas is going up. So they can keep their money. We just want to be free. That's all. All right. So, all distractions, I agree 100%. It's me. We are all one in Christ. Exactly, Tom. Now, Christ equalized the playing field because it doesn't matter what color you are. If you believe in him, you're saved. Okay? That's it. All right. Things are getting crazy, you guys. I anticipate that by this summer, there will be some form of mandatory VC to travel from state to state. I don't know what form that's going to be, but I can't imagine that they're going to allow summer travel to continue as usual without some kind of requirement. It might be a particular state that requires it. Probably it'll be California. Some rogue governor. or it might be New York. Somebody, some state by this summer, by the end of summer, is going to require people to get a VC to enter the state. I can almost guarantee it. I might be wrong, but this is where things are headed. They need leverage. That's if they're going to pay people $5 million to take a VC, what's stopping them from requiring you to fly in an airplane to take a VC? You know what I mean? If they're willing to do that, then that's what's coming next. And unfortunately, they're going to gradually let this roll out. That way, no one group of people can rise up at once to oppose it. They'll start with one state, and then they'll gradually tighten the screws. Then it'll be 2 states. Then it'll be a mandate. And so here's the thing. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? They've already made it mandatory for the European Union. 7 Grains has covered that. We covered that as well. It's already mandatory to travel to Europe. Let me give an example. Mark has some properties in France. He can't go to France to maintain his properties. They're just growing out of control, falling into disrepair because he needs a mandatory VC to cross the English Channel. And there's probably not too many of you who own property overseas, but what if you did? What happened to your investment? Now you're forced to do something you don't want to do just to go and be where you want to be. And this is why you should never minimize the small incremental erosions of rights. You should never minimize that. You should never say, oh, that's not that big of a deal. That particular erosion of rights isn't a bit, because in total, it forms a picture of the gradual erosion of rights, and both sides are doing it. It's not just the right, it's not just the left, it's both of them. It's an agenda. So I'm heading over to the other premiere. It's about 15 minutes long. See you guys over there.